Welcome to Soni Irabor Live. Well, January 16, 2027, we'll be voting or electing a new president of Nigeria. And thereafter, we'll be electing new governors, ministers, senators, and so on and so forth. But there are people concerned, I would like to call them the concerned Nigerians, who feel that there ought to be a level playing field for at least, well, at most, if you like, 2 presidential candidates. One is the incumbent, and the other will be opposing. They will explain better. The G100, the convener is here with me. He said I shouldn't call him Dr. Salihu Lukman. And then, of course, the member, Professor Anthony Kila, who is not a stranger to this program. The 2 gentlemen will be discussing with us in the course of this program. Gentlemen, you're welcome to the program. And I'm so happy that I have 2 great, proud men. One is graying in head and in face and everything. The other is well laid out, all clean shaven and everything, but they are gray mattered, as the case may be. You mean well for Nigeria. So, Mr. Salihu Lukman, starting with you, what gave you the reason to start this idea of thinking that it's not a level playing field if you have 2 or more than 2 presidential candidates?
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Soni Irabor. And I think for clarity, it's not just about trying to get 2 presidential candidates, but trying to get something better for Nigeria. All of us who signed the open letter to opposition leaders were united in one thing, and that thing is basically that Nigeria deserves better, and that we believe the advantage of having a democracy is that every election season, it should be able to give citizens the opportunity to elect or pass a vote of confidence or no confidence on those who are there. And we believe that the last 3.5 years, if you want to extend it, the last 10 years or so, have not been quite good for Nigerians. And that we must use this opportunity to get something better for Nigerians. And unfortunately, our basic concern, which is the second thing that unites us, is that we see our opposition leaders engrossed with their own personal ambition to the point that they are not looking at the bigger picture, the fact that Nigerians deserve something much better, on the basis of which they should come forward to make the needed sacrifice to be able to give Nigerians something better by way of coming together and uniting. And when we noticed that we are basically slipping into the old mode, which was what played out in 2023, we felt we needed to do something to engage leaders of the opposition, which was what informed that open letter. And after the open letter, we followed them through and engaged them in meetings where we presented our concern. And I must say, well, like we have indicated in the press statement we issued, we got quite encouraging responses from the opposition leaders, and which is why we say we must take it to the next stage where we bring them all together in one room where we begin to address the specific in terms of how do they move forward to engage themselves so that by the 2027 election, they are presenting a united front to Nigerians on the basis of which Nigerians can have confidence that truly, yes, the opposition are united and they are ready to present something better on the basis of which Nigerians can come out and vote for the opposition. I think, in summary, this is the logic that drove our action, and this is what we are following through. And as we are now, we are preparing for a summit, or what we call the Summit of National Council of Opposition, which God willing, will take place on the 31st of August. And we are using this coming week to finalize all preparation together with the key opposition parties that we have consulted. And I must say we have consulted the leadership of 6 of them, including their presidential candidates. And the 6 parties are ADC, NDC, PRP, PDP, the Tanimu Taraki leadership, SDP, and there is the 6th one. I am just calling them off it, but there are 6 parties we are working with right now. Well, and we will finalize all arrangement, and by 31st of August, have that summit. And that summit will present a roadmap of engagement among these leaders on the basis of which by 2027, God willing, we'll have a united front.
Okay. Well, as a member, Professor Kila, as a member of this group of 100, how would you now look at the whole process? Do you see the parties, agreeing to follow the suggestion that the G100 has, made?
Well, if you make a suggestion, you hope people follow. You hope people take your suggestion. That's the hope of the proposers. But I think 2 things needs to be said. One is that if one proposes something in the secular political sphere, then you have to work towards it to make it happen. You have to meet the people, convince them, let them realize they need to yield to your request and take on your proposal on board. But I think it is also important to notice that it's actually a leadership test for those who are involved. It is a test that asks them the question of how willing are they to put aside their ambition for the purpose of a greater nation. How capable are they to understand the importance of presenting a viable, vibrant, and credible alternative government for the country? That is the test of leadership. It is easy to say, I want to be president. Not that easy. A lot of people can hope for it, but, it is legitimate, it is personal to say, I want to lead Nigeria. I want it to be my party. But the great test of leadership is when you look around and say, actually, what matters first is to have a viable platform. Is the understanding, the maturity to understand that though many of us can be capable, eligible, and legitimately able to run for the office, we understand that it can only be one person at a time. So therefore, 2 questions. 1, how do we sacrifice? And 2, how do we compromise? How do we come together as decent, committed, capable leaders and understand that one person can represent all of us? If you notice that so far we're speaking about the opposition so far, not a word about the government. So to those who misunderstand this, let me use this opposition to explain that this is a quest for institutional vigor and a test of leadership of Nigerian political class, starting from the opposition.
There are 2 issues I'm seeing there: sacrifice, compromise. Yeah. And the both of you have spoken so clearly about it. And you are indeed thinking for Nigeria and the sovereignty of the people of Nigeria. But the question remains, which leader, which president, which man is bold enough to say, I will take the people of Nigeria as my primary concern before anything else? And that goes a long way. Mr. Lukman.
Soni, can I jump in there, Soni?
Right.
Let me say something very quickly to make it easy for everybody. I am old enough, I'm educated enough, I'm capable enough to be president of Nigeria today. So I think I can answer that question. If I were any one of those people out there, I think I have more degrees than most of them. If I were any one of them today, I would put my ideas on the table and say, I am willing to step back as long as you promise me you realize these 4 or 5 points. That is the way to sacrifice, and that is the way to go about it. But please go ahead.
I like that. Mr. Lukman, over to you, because he's indirectly creating the roadmap from what you said.
I think the question you pose is a very practical question. And in all our meetings with the leadership of the opposition parties, we pose these questions very clearly. And as part of posing the question, we are very deliberate and specific. We ask them the clear issue. Do you just want to be a candidate, somebody on the ballot, or you truly want to win the election? You need to clear that. If you want to win election, it's not just about being on the ballot, it's about also doing a number of things that will enable you to garner the support base that will earn you the votes. As it is, we're very plain to all of them that as it is, if they go as individuals the way they are now in a fragmented way, they will split their votes and they will just hand over victory to the ruling APC and President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. And for us, part of the thing, which is what I stated at the beginning, we believe Nigerians deserve better. We believe that as it is, Nigerians need an option that is workable, that will begin to respond to the challenges facing the country, which is lacking as far as the APC government and President Bola Ahmed Tinubu is concerned. And we need to engage the opposition. I think we agree with most Nigerians. The issue is not just about changing leaders. It's also about coming up with programmatic issues that will convince Nigerians, yes, these are the solution, on the basis of which Nigerians can come out to support the opposition. And so in our engagement with them, and this is part of the thing that we want to do, starting with the summit. First, we need to put up a structure that will enable them to engage one another and address be able to negotiate the kind of unity they have. And some of the questions you are asking, including the one you are yet to ask, in terms of who stepped down for who. Our position is straightforward, which we put on their table. We say, look, it's the quality of relationship you have among yourself that will determine how much sacrifice you can make for each other, or how much trust you can invest in one another. So start that engagement that will enable you to have that level of trust and have that level of confidence on the basis of which the sacrifices can be easily negotiated. The second thing is about the programmatic issues. And the programmatic issues are straightforward. We need to sit down and begin, and which is why we said it's not about our opinion or opinion of leaders. We need to begin to put issues on their table, let them engage it and say, okay, we agree with ABCD. If it is a matter of insecurity, we agree that this is the response that whoever emerge among us, this is what we agree we are going to do. If it is a question of how do you resolve the challenges of high level of unemployment, the challenges of out-of-school children, which has produced insecurity and what have you, this is the way we want to respond to it. So these are some of the preliminary work that has to be done, which is why we keep making the point that we can't short-circuit the process. Let's get them in the room first and let them have the basic agreement that, yes, they are ready to work with one another. And on the basis of which we can begin to set timelines. And Nigerians will see consciously that there is a transparent process being put in place on the basis of which even themselves, they will know that Nigerians are looking at them. And if, for instance, we want to now measure the level of their commitment to the welfare of Nigeria, it will be the extent to which they are able to commit themselves to work with each other. So these are some of the basic things we are trying to put in place, and we believe we already begin to get the encouragement from them. Since they have subscribed, they said, okay, yes, we are ready to move to the next stage, which is why this coming week we are engaging them again. And before the end of the week, we will come out and clarify this is the agenda for the summit, and this is the way we are going to run it, on the basis of which by the end of the summit, it's not just going to be about declaration. There will be a work process that will be put in place, which will eventually give Nigerians the indication of what to expect from whatever process of working together will be put in place.
Thank you very much. Professor Kila, do you want to have anything to say about this before I move on to my next question?
I think it's, he's laid out the process, the desired process of ensuring that the gladiators, the protagonists, engage themselves and a possible outcome based on their understanding. I continue to insist on two things. My view is that, personally, this is a quest for institution. A democratic institution work where there is a popular government that has defeated a viable opposition. If you have a government that is not popular, that is not democracy. If you have an opposition that is not viable, that is not democracy. You cannot have one of the two. You have to have both. Otherwise, it will be limping democracy, not a functioning democracy. But I also insist that it's a test of leadership for these opposition leaders as well. It is already bad that they need the G100 to figure out this thing that we're saying now. But whilst we're at it, history will judge how they deal with this situation, because it's also a test of their leadership and character and their ability to put nation before personal ambition. But, it's also the ability to measure reality. If you ask my family members, everybody will think that I'm the most popular. I'll probably get 100% of votes. But then I have to be realistic enough to look at the whole country beyond those who love me. That is the stuff leadership is made of. And that is why some people step back, knowing that they might not be able to win and it's better to support somebody else. That is what we need to see in these leaders here. And they should not be excused. I continue to think we need to put a spotlight on them to say, what did you do when history called?
Okay. Now, beyond this, after the election, there are two questions I'm going to ask again in this. Let's look first at that one leader that can see Nigeria through the democratic lens as a sovereign nation, where the words of the current, which was passed, national anthem, it's very interesting to say, though tribe, and if I had a chance, I would not use it, though tribe and tongue may differ, in brotherhood we stand. You, the G100, are to me the ombudsmen now. So you are the referees. You are watching. So you'll be able to now determine, yeah, good or bad. Or how do you determine or ensure, maybe through your summit that is coming next week, how do you ensure that all of these put together, somebody is conscious enough and not less and less personal? It puts personal interests aside. It thinks of Nigeria as a nation. Nothing more than that. Nothing short of that. How can you ensure that as ombudsman?
Well, Mr. Soni Irabor, I can tell you that it's not an easy task at all. And that one of the things we tried to pose, and we made that public, is that I think our leaders in the opposition need to also make up their mind what legacy they want to leave behind. What do they want to be remembered for? And I think that is the point Professor Kila was trying to highlight, his last question. At the end of the day, some of the basic questions we ask, and we can count how many people have had the privilege of ruling Nigeria now from independence to date. And out of all of them, I'm sure we will be struggling to identify what is it that they will be remembered for. And we pose the question to our leaders Do you want to be remembered as one of those in the long list of leaders who have had the privilege to rule Nigeria? Or you want to be remembered as people, and I think that was the point Professor Kila was trying to make, as people when the country needed leadership most, needed people to step forward and make the needed sacrifice and move the nation forward by way of overcoming some of our basic challenges. People who can be remembered generation after generation, just like when we read the history of US, we'll hear of the Washington, the Roosevelt, and what have you. Now, as far as we are concerned, we keep making the point, we in the G100 are just trying to facilitate. We don't want to dictate to our leaders. We will put these basic questions and push them to make the decision themselves. But in making the decision, they have to know that the nation and history is beckoning at them. And what I know, and this is me now as my individual self, I believe that the way the country is, something has to give. The country can't just continue to. The kind of hardship Nigerians are going through is not sustainable at all. And for us, if we want to take advantage of the democratic process to help find solution, this is the little we can do. So honestly, the point about leadership, which Professor Kila keeps emphasizing, this is the calling for it. Our leaders in the opposition need to step forward and understand that the choice before then is not as easy as hanging on to their personal ambition. In fact, the reality is the extent of sacrifice they can be able to make will determine how history judges them. So this will be my response to your question. And honestly, like I said at the beginning, it's not an easy answer, but we must find the answer. We must engage the process in such a way that at the end, by the end of the election in 2027, Nigerians get something better than what we are having today. This is the commitment, I can say so. Almost all of us in the G100, this is what binds us together.
Professor Kila, well, I think you should, let's hear your perspective on this.
Yes, he said it all. You know, as you probably suspect, I am more for institution than government of the day. You know, I keep on insisting that we have a lot of bright idea and passionate people in this country. One thing we tend to lack is strong institution, and that is my passion. And, you know, in the case of this election, I think you just need a balanced institution of government and opposition. And if one can help contribute to building opposition, because the government of the day needs does not need any help, then yes, you know, so be it. I think that's the way. But I think we need to be very sincere with ourselves. I think opposition has been very slow in coming up with policies because they've been looking inwards, because they've been having problem with INEC, with the court, with factions among themselves. And while that has been going on, they've not been able to offer the country an alternative, a new vision, an option people can choose from. So one of the reasons of pulling them together is this one, to say, okay, let's sort out this your problem. Let's come out with something that people can look at and say, maybe instead of government, I might prefer opposition. My view for the benefit of Nigeria is that way, regardless of how you vote, it will also help government to do better. Because you see, a government that is not challenged is a very dangerous government. It becomes sloppy. It becomes unaccountable. There's a beautiful word, although a very dangerous word, let's call it fascinating, which is hubris, that comes when power goes into people's head. And one way for power to go into people's head in democracy is if they are sure of winning, if they are not challenged. And that is the risk the country is going through. And I've not even said the government is behind the problem of opposition. I've not even said so. Even if the government were not, behind the problem of the opposition, even if it's just nature of their own sloppiness, the country suffers for it. So to that extent, my view is that every person of goodwill, every man and woman of goodwill who really understands democracy has to understand that it is the duty of every Democrat to ensure that there is a viable opposition vying against a popular government.
Okay, we'll take a short break, and after the break, we'll go deep into the real problem of the country, Nigeria. We'll be right back. Yes, welcome back. Well, this is Soni Irabor Live, and I have two great men of G100, and Salihu Lukman and Anthony Kila. These great guys are people who are thinking for us, thinking for Nigeria, and I think also the fact that when they're worried like this, we ought to know how to respond to that. Well, I can see that Mr. Lukman, he's actually calling me doctor, is unavoidably unavailable for now. He will soon be back.
Yeah, the problem is that the light has gone off, but it's okay, we'll manage.
Okay, I can hear your voice, so no problem. Good. And Professor Kila. Now, let's look at Nigeria with the prevailing. The last 1 year has been really great. Great in the positive, great in the negative. Well, the prevailing and recurring situations about Nigeria is that we have had insecurity, we have had ethnicity, we have had all kinds of roadblocks. In fact, if you check our social media, you see all the videos that are telling the stories as they unfold. So anyway, where is the assurance that, one, you will get the people, I mean the opposition as it were, now as a collective, where is the assurance that you will get them to respond according to your wishes and dictates for the benefit of Nigeria? The assurance, G100. I know, Mr. Salihu, you had said it's a difficult task, but I'm still going to ask you that question because you've taken it upon yourselves. So let's see how you can go with it, how far you can go with it. Who wants to answer? Okay, Professor Kila, over to you first.
Oh, me? You choose not a very optimistic person. I don't think anybody can give assurance. What people need to do is commitment. If you sign a document, you have a commitment to persuade, to explain, to engage, and to let them see reason. That is a commitment I can assure you of. Accepting it, viewing it that way lies in the hand of the people you are proposing to. But the good thing is that, from what Lukman has said there and what we've read in various reports, the good thing is that they seem to be responsive to it. And so far, I think so good, because don't forget that, as you rightly said, this is a difficult task. Don't forget that, if not all, most of these people have gone through primaries. So they're legitimate flag bearers of their parties, no matter how big or small their party is. So, they're leaders, they're certified leaders in their right. And they can't just easily walk away from such level, such achievement and support which they have. It takes wisdom, sacrifice, and vision to understand the need to coalesce around ideas towards victory in their own interest, in other people's interest. I think, first of all, to even contribute to institution building and then victory where possible. So it is not easy. One cannot give assurance, at least so that one does not become one of those prophets who says things then the next day, and it turns out not to be true. I know that even after elections, Soni Irabor, you and I will see again, and you will remind me that I assured you. So I'm not going to assure you. What I'm going to do is to tell you that we're committed to working very hard. We think we have a very strong case to propose, and it is then up to them as well to understand and to be able to have the clarity of mind to understand and the discipline to implement, to sacrifice and to give rather than take.
Okay. Mr. Lukman, let me, I know you're having NEPA issue or light issue. Well, forgive my,
Very well.
I had to go back in my history. We used to say NEPA those days. Well, it's no longer like that. Right. I can see your face, and I know the people at home can see you as well. Can you take it from the way he responded, Professor Kila responded? What is the guarantee that you can get his proposition to toe your line?
Well, look. Like we said, we are facilitators. And as facilitators, the first thing we need to do is to create confidence that those who are engaging see value in what we are putting forward to them on the table. And the second thing, apart from they seeing value, they should also commit in terms of not just participating, but making effort to contribute to the process of answering some of the questions you are asking. Because, for instance, one of the things we try to avoid as much as possible is to be accused of already having a predetermined agenda. Already there is those accusations. I have read a number of them. And interestingly, some of them, especially myself, I find accusation, people like alleging that I'm working for one of the candidates. And interestingly, some of the other candidates will also accuse the same candidate, some of the people around the same candidate and being accused of working for him will be accusing me of working for another candidate. So this is the challenge of confidence building. And in doing that, some of the things, which is why we have to engage in this consultative process at the beginning, to put forward on the table to say, okay, look, in terms of coming up with ideas, in terms of what program you pursue, which all of you should commit yourself to, can we put a work process on the table that enable you to handle it directly yourself, and on the basis of which whatever come out of it, the decision you will be making, you own it. So this, once we cross the first hurdle, for instance, like we said, and I like the emphasis Professor Kila keep making about institution building. If from the summit, we drive the process in the direction of institution building, set up structures on the basis of which those structures are engaging and driving the process, and everybody could see that this is the outcome they are going to produce, which will be sustainable, then the guarantee you are looking for will be found in those kind of work process. This is the much I can say now, because I'm also being extremely careful, and I want us, this is not about Salihu Lukman, it's not about Professor Kila, it's not about Mr. Soni Irabor, it's not about any individual, it's about the country called Nigeria. And like we keep emphasizing, our belief, this is what unites the people who signed the original letter. Now we are more than 100. This is what unites many of us in this project we are handling, that definitely Nigeria deserves better, and it requires people with commitment and passion to engage leaders, to push them in a direction that they really begin to respond to the challenge by way of giving something much better than what the country has today.
Professor Kila, over to you.
Yes, we're on the same page. That's the whole point. Is that protest? And I think this commitment to transparency is a very good commitment. That is what reassures people. Let me reassure Suleiman Lukman that if people are accusing you left and right, it means you're doing a good job. The moment everybody just agree with you or sees you as simple in institution building, then you're not doing a good job yet. You know, I feel good when I get criticized left and right. I know I'm doing a good thing, because there's a problem in this country which we need to talk about when we have time, but the time should come very soon, which is citizenry and civic illiteracy. For some reason, we have turned election and partisanship to mere followership, like football. We see it as winning, as vanquishing. We don't see it as decision. And I try to tell people that if you notice it, television stations like Soni Irabor and other people, when election comes, they call it decide. They call it like Oshun decides, Nigeria decides, Nigeria 2027. It is not football match. It is not somebody defeats the other. Unfortunately, too many of our people are losing the sense of understanding that the electoral process is about deciding, not supporting and vanquishing. It's about examining, not applauding. It's about endorsing, not just crucifying one side or blindly following the other. Let us be very clear with ourselves, left and right, all the candidates, they're not known, or they're less known for their programs and more known for their personality. That is not a mature democracy. We need to work harder on our democracy. We need to educate our citizens. We need to educate ourselves so people can understand when we say institution building, so people can understand what is at stake. You don't just like one person, for any reason in the world, whether it's where they come from or how they dress or how they look. It doesn't matter. You can't just like and vote based on likeness. That is not good enough. You need to understand the reason. And even though everybody, because unfortunately, we have a lot of people who are voting who do not even understand the process. Those who understand it should ensure that idea and ideals, programs and policy should come to the forefront. That, for me, is the useful battle.
Okay. Now, there are two things I want to point out here. You mentioned, for example, the whole talk about citizenry and civic responsibility. Well, in my early days, I think I'm getting older now, there was something that we were taught even in secondary school. Civics, C-I-V-I-C-S. Yeah. I was shocked that it's not taught like that anymore, which shows your level of knowledge about your fundamental human rights, where the right of the citizen is taken seriously, and the Constitution, what level, how much of it do we really have? Then there's respect for the rule of law, which people talk about, but I don't see it practiced. So I want the two of you rather, to look at these two now. I would like to start with Salihu Lukman, please.
Well, I mean, when you talk of civic, I mean, some of the things that shape us from the beginning as a small kid is those basic knowledge, and one of it, and I was happy, and I was nodding my head when you were talking about it, about rule of law. There are basic things we were taught, how to respect laws and what have you. And now all those have departed us. I mean, look, I'm sure I'm also getting old, but I'm younger than you, Mr. Soni Irabor. We read you when we were in school, so you're already ahead of us. Now, I mean, when you drive on the road and you see the level of lawlessness, and you see even some of the the level of impunity, you wonder whether, I mean, the civic education you are talking about is all about civility. Whether we are really acting as human beings or we are orienting the younger generation to behave like the civilized people who were taught to be. And this shows the level of degeneration of the Nigerian society itself. Which is why for many of us, we believe, when I keep making the point about the country deserves better, these are some of the issues. Because, for instance, when you sit down with younger ones and you begin to tell them how good the country was some 20 years ago, they think you are lying. They think it's another country entirely. But the fundamental question, and this is the issue why, what is driving us to engage our leaders, we believe not just the country can be returned to that all glory, it can even be made better. And it shouldn't be about cliche or some propaganda. It has to be based on commitment, extracted commitment by leaders to make the needed sacrifice. Look, Mr. Irabor, you know it. I mean, there used to be a time when a public officer is found with some level of resources in his or her personal account, that person is already going to face trial. Today is not the case. You see public office holders converting public resources as personal wealth. And this is a sign of disaster. And unless leaders commit themselves, it will sound, and this is the point I was making, that this country can't continue like this. We are headed toward a disaster. Many countries who find themselves where Nigeria is today and failed to take the needed action to save the country ended up in more disastrous situation. We don't want Nigeria to go that way. I think this is the point. And I'm happy you brought this issue. And these are some of the issues why our leaders must wake up and understand that the choice before them is to determine how they want history to remember them.
Thank you very much, sir. We'll take another short break. Professor Kila apparently has seen his own, he has a problem with lighting like yours, you know, but I think he's been removed, he's ejected, as it were. We'll be right back after the short break, okay? Okay, so we're back, and we have about less than 5 minutes to conclude this program. But the topic is very, very important. And every Nigerian who is really seeing Nigeria as his country will know that these two gentlemen, the wise men, I would like to say, the G300 wise men, are saying a lot of good things that we are taking for granted. Well, thank you for being patient with us. Let me ask you individually this time, one after the other. Do you see in Nigeria that the people will respect and therefore obey the rule of law? Mr. Lukman.
I can tell you that I'm an optimistic person, and this is the source of my commitment. I believe that as human beings, we can make things possible. And I believe that is our level of commitment and determination that produces the outcome we end up having. And I believe if as Nigerians we engage our leaders and persevere to continue to engage them and insist that they give us some specific outcome, we are going to get to the point you are talking about, which is that, I mean, people will respect rule of law. We want a Nigeria that, for instance, will have a president that is accountable, who, when, for instance, they present a national budget and there is a deviation from the budget, he can answer, that president can answer the call from National Assembly, whether Senate or House of Reps, and respond to the question of why there is deviation from what is approved.
Okay, thank you.
And it should be possible that as Nigerians we will rise up one day to have a country in which when a minister violates a law, it calls for his sacking or her sacking. I think these are very possible, and with determination and commitment we'll achieve it.
Thank you. Okay, Professor Kila, my question to you will be, a nation that is Nigeria, like any other nation, where the rule of law obtains and is respected, do you see this institution that you talk about really working? Professor Kila.
They will work. I mean, institution. Look, the countries that we look up to, where people, run away to, or go and study, or go and work, where they jackpot to, and where some people steal Nigerians' money to go and invest in. What makes it attractive is institution. It's as simple as that. There is no innate quality in anybody for which people behave well. Italians might eat more pastas, the Brits might drink more tea, but that is nothing. What makes people work is the laws and the institution of their land. And I have no doubt in my mind that if you put the right institution in place, even bad people will be better behaved. And if you put institution in place, good people will be better behaved as well. So good institution brings out the best of all of us.
Right, gentlemen, I want to thank both of you. Allow me to just call you doctor for once, just for seconds. Dr. Salihu Lukman.
The privileges and
You are the convener of G100 and a member for that matter, and Professor Anthony Kila, a member of the G100. Thank you, both of you. You've done so well, and I'm proud that I got the two of you, and you agreed to come. God bless you all. And we hope that the summit will work well for Nigeria. Thank you again. Bye-bye now.
Thank you very much.
And so it's been Soni Irabor Live with Dr. Salihu Lukman and Professor Anthony Kila, and they are members of the G100. You see, Nigeria is indeed a country that is well respected for what do we think of Nigeria as ourselves. As a Nigerian, I'm a proud Nigerian, but I would like to be respected as a Nigerian. And that would be a topic for another day. Good night, everyone.